Welcome everyone, bienvenuti. I had one. There is Dobro Poshalovat for the Russians out there. I saw somebody on the chat saying that they were from Russia, from Germany, from New Zealand, from all over the place. Welcome everyone. This is Blender.Today, this weekly meeting we have where we see what's new in the Blender community, in Blender itself, in the software itself, the changes that happened, and a little bit of everything. Just 1 hour where we chat and yes, we hang out here live. So leave your comments. If you have any questions, you can add me at Blender.Today if you have any question you want to ask. So yes, here this week, actually, the big news of the week, of course, is the continuation of what we talked last week. If you were there, if you weren't there, this is the first time, by the way. This is a meeting we have Blender.Today. We see Blender stuff, basically. My name is Pablo Vasquez. I work in the Blender Institute here in Amsterdam, Blender Animation Studio. So I get to use Blender every day and try some new stuff. And also run some of the stuff going on in Blender. In this case, the Blender 2.8 code quest. That's quite of a big deal. And last week we launched it the same day that I made the live stream, and now happy to say that in only 4 days the main target of 1,000 rockets was achieved. Yes, everybody you should celebrate. Do I have a celebration sound? Yes, maybe. Yes. Give yourself a pat in the back. Yes, you deserve it. This means that... Okay, basta. This means that the main goal, which is gathering all the Blender developers, the main developers for Blender 2.8 here in Amsterdam in one room, or many rooms, but basically in the same place, where they can work in the main targets of Blender 2.8. It's its biggest release ever, I think. It's one of the, if not the biggest, I think it's the biggest, because the community is bigger and Blender is bigger and there's way too many things going on. So I will argue this is the biggest thing to happen in Blender in many years. Even we discussed that even the main on Wednesday last week we had a live stream with Tom Rosendahl, the creator of Blender, at the Blender Developers channel. You can go to I think it's youtube.com/Blender Developers, or the code Blender.org. There is a link there where you can go. And there I talked with Tom. I asked a few questions. It was also a live stream, so we asked all of the everybody in the community what did they wanted to know about this Blender 2.8 thing. And it's pretty interesting. I think you should check it out because it has all kinds of topics. Even the Blender game engine gets mentioned. We didn't mention the sequencer. That would have been interesting to know what's going on. So in this case, we mentioned everything, but one of the things that we mentioned is that yes, this might be the biggest thing, because until now all the main changes in Blender were they were like a product of the Blender Open Movie project. So if there was, for example, Tears of Steel, the Open Movie project Mango, it brought the movie clip editor, the motion tracker. That's huge, but that's thanks to an Open Movie project. Then I don't know, Elephant's Dream brought the compositor, like the notes that we all know. Well, that's thanks to Elephant's Dream. And Sintel brought 2.8, 2.5 back to life out of alpha, beta. But all of the projects were towards a movie. This case is actually the first time where the community is helping not to make a movie happen, but actually to make a Blender version happen. So it's pretty huge that the main target of 1,000 rockets was achieved in only 4 days. By Friday, we reached the 1,000. That's crazy. So a lot to celebrate here. The website has been improved from the last week. There are a few, the targets are a bit more clear. The team is also a bit better split, and there might be room for more because There's a new target. There's also sponsors, by the way. There are these awesome studios and services and tutorials, websites, and community. The Chinese community, Blender CN, contributed big part by the community, but also by Oliver. Wow, awesome. 1979. It's amazing. So yes, thank you, Blender China. It's amazing. So another update. The last week the rocket was only 8 gigs, and then doing the math, actually now it can be 16 gigs. So it's a bit more useful. It can hold a lot more, like movies and stuff. In this case, the second target is going to the moon. So the first one was like just getting in launch, and the second one was actually going past that. I call it like going supersonic, you know, like after it reaches a moment and it breaks the sound barrier and just goes. Well, I like that effect, so I made it sort of like that. Actually, if you inspect the the website, it's called supersonic. Okay, enough nerd. 1,300 rockets have been sold, and the target is 2,500, which is a big target, but there's no hurry. Actually, that's the stock. So they're one of a kind. If you want to get it, and you get some. Maybe we're thinking some goodies as well to add to the package. Cheers, by the way. I'm having an IPA today, IPA in the Netherlands, and in Spanish and probably Italian. So yeah, and the sponsors having added. So if your company wants to help, there is also more information there. But we are not here to talk about this so much. We already gave it a whole episode last week. We can also talk about some of the development that happened recently. The very nice website called This Week in Blender Dev, which you can find out. It's in the code.blender.org. In here you can find pretty much everything. You can go to the wiki, to the developer portal, to the This Week in Blender, which is a website that I was there, to the YouTube channel where you can find the live stream that we did with Ton. This one. There is a meme that someone made with me as a hobbit, and okay, it's just very silly, but it's just fun. As a hobbit, and then Frodo and yes, it's fun. I'm not that short. I was leaning back. He was leaning forward. It's not fair. But anyway, I'll get to it in a moment. This week in Blender, and first I'm gonna go through some of the questions since I'm asking the questions. So let's see. Here we were talking. Some people were having coffee because it's too early in there. It was like 9 a.m. Wow, that's early. In New Zealand, of course. Yes, Italy. Why Blender? Why there's no official Blender PPA or Snap? Well, basically because no one is offered to do it. There's no like Ubuntu guy that came out and say, hey, I'm gonna make one for it and maintain it. It's a lot of work. So if there's any kind soul out there willing to do this, any Linux user, jump in and yeah, I think at some point there was someone making dev like for one time or so, a dev file, but then gave up or something like that. So if you want to, or maybe a snap or one of those app images kind of packages, that would be cool. And actually that discussion came out because a Windows 10 user would try Blender on Kubuntu and say it's not fair how much better it would be there. Yes, it works there. Yeah, that's a fact. Blender is faster, like the render is faster also, and Blender feels faster on Linux. So if you're serious about like production stuff, maybe you can try dual booting and use Windows for the apps that you use on Windows or games or whatever, and then use Linux for Blender. It doesn't really, it's hard to handle, but it's really not that hard to handle. It's nowadays, if you try the latest It's really, they made it much easier. I don't know when was the last time you tried, but every year it feels a bit closer to like a regular computer. I use Linux personally, but I've been using for some years already, from like 12 years or so. So you kind of grow into it, but I think it's much easier nowadays. Still, you have to access the console sometimes, the terminal, but yes. More questions. Hi, I'm from Spain. See you later too. Yes, I'm doing a live stream on my own channel later, my Pablo Vázquez, in Spanish. I'm gonna talk about the same, but in Spanish. Hello from Georgia, Mexico. How are you doing the sounds? There is a there's an app that it's called, it's a Linux app. It's called how was it? Linux Show Player. If you're interested, yes, this one. It's very simple and basic, but it works. Next, I want a rocket so bad, but I can afford it right now. Don't worry, just spread the word. That also helps a lot. Yeah, Tony's Gandalf. Rocket order, yes, off topic. When developers implement new functions in Blender, they quite often base them on science papers. Does UX team use any public research result? There gotta be some experienced team use any public research. No, I don't know. If you know any, would be awesome to know, but no. Oh, this website is taking forever. This is SearchForce. Yes, still alive, SearchForce. Yeah, this is the Linux player, sound player I use. So basically you load the sounds, and then you can assign shortcuts and stuff. Okay, more. Who made the code quest scene? I made it. You like it? I'm gonna actually I could play with it. I have it on my drop on Blender Cloud, not Dropbox, Blender Cloud, of course. Yeah, I could download it here. It's like 4 megabytes. I need to clean the file, and then I'm gonna put it on the Blender Cloud for everybody to use it. It's gonna be free access, I guess. There is no really is to share, or maybe even better to promote it. To promote the Rocket, we can put it in the Rocket and on the Blender Cloud. Will there be Gooseberry 2? Not for now. The future so far is the present so far is this beautiful girl Spring and her dog and her adventures in the Alps. This is the next open movie, by the way, that we are working on at the Blender Animation Studio. But actually, I wanted to mention something else. There is this clickbaity title on this video that is about the hair, which I'm gonna get to it in a minute. I just want to continue having the questions, just so we can clear them up. And then, yes, have you ever used other software before going to Blender? No, actually not. I don't remember. I was using first like Photoshop stuff, and there was like a, I don't know, a way to add a 3D object in it, but I had a character which was like a drop of water with shoes and with a face, and I tried to do it in that software. I don't know, it was like Adobe. This is, I'm talking about 2002 or 1. That was a long time ago. So there was no, I couldn't use anything else because my computer was too crappy, and the only thing that would run fast and that would fit on a floppy disk, because my CD drive was broken, the only thing that would fit was Blender back then. It was Blender, let's see if it's still there. It was Blender.Today. Oh, it's not there because it was before it was open source. But here you can find Blender.26. I was using Blender.23 with that one I started. By the way, you can find all the Blender versions if you want in Blender.org. In the download section at the bottom, you can find previous versions, and there you can, yeah, just pretty much see all the previous splash screens. I don't know if you guys knew about this, but it's a hidden secret in Blender.org. You can find all the splash screens. Look at the 2.5, Alpha 0, Alpha 1, Alpha 2. All these all of them until 2.5 beta. This one, the 256, we made Sintel with it. That's why we use all the splashes possible, because we were making a movie with a broken software. So I imagine like 250 was alpha, alpha 0, alpha 1, alpha 2. That's sort of what's gonna happen, I think, with the spring, with the movie we're making at the Blender Institute, because at the animation studio, because we're using broken software. We will use broken software when we start using 2.8. Blender 2.8 still not ready for production, so do not you do serious stuff with it, because yeah, it can mess files up. The team at the Institute now is using Blender 279, well, not 79, but master, like the latest version, which is very close to 79, with some improvements. But yeah, and trivia, this is a 2D, is a drawing. This is the only, but not the only, but one of the few splashes in Blender that actually is a drawing. It's not a 3D render. Then there's Sigurath, and yes, and you can go all the way back. This is Carrot. Pretty happy. Yes, that's me when I used to make art. So sad. And I started with this one, 223. Next question. Oh, I opened Maya once, but I couldn't get used to the shortcuts. I guess it's the same. It happens to them. I couldn't get used to the shortcut. It was confusing, and I remember it was always in edit mode. I couldn't find a way easily. Of course, I was used to this mode way of thinking, that you can change modes and move the objects individually. But I felt I was always like in edit mode. But of course, I don't know how to use it, so I gave up after like I don't know, 5 minutes. There's a video of that. Is there a way to disable the Alt key moving the window around in Linux Mint? Linux Mint, I don't know. I'm using Linux Nyum, Ubuntu Nyum. Yes, it's yes, Ubuntu 17.10 I'm using. Sometimes I forget. But the option to change the alt, you can always do it from the dconf. Okay, this is super nerd for Linux user, but basically the dconf. You can change in org nyum desktop vwm keybining. Yes, this is what I mean when it's still not very polished. Some settings you have to go and find them in the deepest corners of the configuration. It's called dconf. Okay, hey, cool. A new live stream. Yes, San Diego, California. What is your role at Blender? Are you a 3D generalist? I am a bit of a mix. I worked in many open movies as mainly as a render artist. So I did for Sintel, I did lighting, rendering, some modeling for some of the bed scene, and compositing, and we were a team of 4 render artists, so everyone did everything basically. But yeah, I try to focus more on that, but I do kind of everything. I think being a small team, everybody is a generalist. Of course, some do more than others in one area. For example, animators, they focus more on animation because it's so hard, so complex, that it will be very hard for a really good animator to also be a really good render artist or so, because switching, it's complicated. But for a render artist, it's not too hard to go and model something or do, yeah, maybe for an animator it's easier to rig, so because they're more related, but even then animation is like its own planet. It was so weird to try out Blender 1.8. There was no control C. Yeah, the one I started, there was no control, there was no undo. And then they added one undo level, and for like many years, and then they added more undo levels. Such a nightmare. But it helps you because you can actually move on, and you think about doing stuff once you get the undo. And still nowadays the undo is kind of, I don't trust it completely. I think I still have some scars in my soul from when it crashed, when they were implementing it like a decade ago or so. More actually. In 2.8 Eevee, I cannot have feedback in the viewport for an animated color ramp. Yes, no, animation is not there yet. Is it normal for now? There is a trick to have feedback. Well, it's a mix. Let's see here. Before the live stream, I compiled all my blenders. Yes, I have Blender 2.8 here. Ta-da! This is how fast it launches on Linux. Boom. On Windows it takes a bit. I don't know why. Like, you know, on Mac I think it takes not as fast as Linux, but faster than Windows. I don't know exactly what it is. If someone knows the more technical part, I would love to know. But no, the animation doesn't work at the moment. You have to use a specific command line option, which is enable. Yes, enable copy on write. This is super highly mega ultra experimental, so it's more likely, it's really likely it's gonna crash. So handle with care. If you run with that command, yes, some of the animation stuff will work. So when you run animation, or when you have multiple scenes in different windows, all of that should work, because that's being worked on. That's the whole system that is being worked on under the hood. So yes, there is soft surf. You can't change the the levels here, but there is. So in Blender 2.8, the regular one, you can't even do this. So I'm not gonna try it because I'm gonna crash Blender so bad. So yeah, wait for animation support. Do you wish for more 3D party renderers like Redshift for Blender, or you're pretty happy with cycles? I think I prefer much more the advantages of having Blender, like cycles, built into Blender so much. Like it's super tight, the integration, all the passes, information, everything really is built for Blender. It's so fast, it accesses, I don't know, it's built for Blender. Of course you can also use cycles in other engines, but nowadays if you try now, it's gotten so much faster that maybe going through the trouble of exporting or writing shaders for another renderer, it kind of gets in the way. You have to, you know, put on a scale. Put it. Do I prefer to export all everything and go through the trouble of like making the shaders and everything, in exchange for having a different render engine that maybe I can change, I can share with other people in a team? Or do I go with cycles, and then we can all use this cycle? We can put it in a render farm. We can have as many licenses as possible. You can share with your with everybody in the team, and have the integration. So it's a mix. I'm pretty happy with how cycles is nowadays. I think with the principal shader and with Blender 2.8, once you set up the shaders for cycles, they also work pretty close to. If you use the principal shader node, they will also work with Eevee. So it's like you get that for free, almost. With the new way that Blender 2.8 works with Workbench, do you think that a cycles level viewport rendering workflow will be possible for other render engines? Cycles level viewport rendering workflow, like having it on the viewport like directly. Well, yeah, there is a render API for that, right? That there should be ways or working on it. But yeah, the render API should allow to any engine to hook inside. Actually, render Blender. Didn't Lux have that? I think it had some of 2015 maybe. But yeah, I think some engines already tried that, and they could have. No, I'm getting the wrong video. Or maybe it was experimental, but I remember something about it. Is there some news about the implementation of the top bar? No, there are no news. I have it compiled here. I mentioned it the other day. I don't know. It was in the top bar being Blender. If you don't know how to compile Blender, I highly recommend it to check it out. It's not really hard and you get to try all the good stuff. So this is the top bar and this is how you, it's basically like a browser. I'm gonna make the UI a bit bigger. So yeah, it's basically like a browser. You can add tabs and then each tab will have its own collection of, I shouldn't use the word collection because collections means something else in Blender 2.8. Each tab, it represents a workspace, and each workspace inside has screens, the ones that we know and love or hate, depends on your relationship with it, which is basically the how do you distribute the windows, the editors and the screens. So in Blender 2.8, the screens are inside the this workspace. I really like this feature of the new screens that actually shows the preview, how it looks, instead of just the name, which is pretty handy. But yeah, no, there are no news. As far as I know, if any developer, Julian or Dalai, are watching this, please let me know. I've been so busy lately with the code quest that I completely lost track of that. I want to confirm this. I noticed Blender 2.8 denoiser completely removes noise even at low sample rates as 150 samples. Yes, the denoiser is amazing, but not even the 279. But yeah, denoiser is freaking awesome. Speaking of awesome, a great great news happened recently in, oh no, I'm not watching. Okay, the live Felinto is there. He's not watching, but he happens to be the coordinator for the Blender 2.8 project, so you can find his face in Meet the Team here. Dalai, is there any news regarding the top bar? Is there anything happening? Isn't the code quest or not? Top bar, I mean the workspace, the list of workspaces, which I think that will make it. Yes, please agree. The list and the bar underneath, and maybe not for the time being. Is the top bar going to be toggleable? It is nice to be able to have a window to be completely full screen, rather than having a little bar at the top. Well, you can still full screen with the... Is that still there? Toggle full screen area? Ah, it's not at the moment. But still, this bar is, it should be toggleable maybe, yes. But still, it's so thin, it's like so little, few pixels. Not really any news. We hope to get more developers for a few days, weeks to work on with the core team, but nothing confirmed for now. Okay, that's good news. Okay, so more news and the scope of what we will work for the code quest. Oh yes, okay. More news. The hair system, this amazing system that Blender has since forever. It's not forever, but it's been the same system actually since Big Bang Bunny, maybe since 2008. So it's like 10 years old. This system that we have, it's showing its age. I said amazing because it actually really it worked up until no, it didn't stop working. It's just that it sometimes you reach some points where it just gets hard to do what you want to do, especially if you try to do physics, if you try to do collisions with other objects or like interaction with the hair. That's can get a bit tough. During the Gooseberry project and Gooseberry Blender hair, there was some work done to have these simulations going. So it actually, for the movie itself, even the beard moves. Look at that lush beard. So yeah, there is actually, and if you watch some of the let's see, Cosmos Laundromat, some of the closer shots in Cosmos Laundromat, you will see that there is hair sim. So at some point it was possible, but it was really a nightmare to make it work. The caches were, yes, too big. It was hard to set up. It was like a hack on top of a hack, and it's a pity because actually it looks pretty nice, especially with the wind. That's amazing, but these results are not possible with the regular Blender. Basically, the changes, sadly, were done for this version of the Blender version that we use for this project, and could not be, well, better not be ported into the main master branch because they were a bit hacky basically, and they were not like a good implementation in the terms of usability. wasn't the best. You had a bit of back and forth, so better not bring this to the public. And actually, well, it is available, of course. All the development happened on a branch, not in the main Blender version, but on a branch. So yes, development has been done in the hair system as a whole in Blender, but not a lot. The hair system needs to be remade, basically. It needs to be rewritten, and there's work being done in that regard, but it's gonna take a while. For the time being, something awesome is happening at the Blender Animation Studio. It's Spring, and Spring happens to have hair. And her hair, it at least is braided, so yes, it's a bit more tight. It's not like she doesn't have a fluffy beard like Sirvisos said in the chat. So in that case, only a few things needed to be done to make it look nice, or to make it look like it was actually braided and not just coming out. So one of the things that Andy, the director of the project, and let me think, make this bigger, and render artists and awesome artists at the Blender Institute, he also worked in Cosmos Laundromat, so he knows. He actually went through the pain of making those simulations, so he actually been there and done that. So whenever we mention the word hair, it's always like, oh no, why? And actually there is a little dog in Spring, so it will be yes, it will be a nightmare again, but hopefully with some little tricks we can get over with this hair system. And when the new system comes in, these tools can be ported over, maybe in a nicer way, basically. So the work that is being done now in the particles system is basically like a way to access the tools independent of what the system is. So the hair system in Blender is one thing, and then the way you access the tools right now, it's all over the place in Blender. So the idea is to have to prepare this set of tools that will access this system, and whenever the new system is ready, whenever there is a new particle system ready, these tools can still just, okay, I'm not going to talk to this old system, I'm going to talk to the new system, but the tools are the same. In a way, I'm trying to explain it in a simple way, but yeah, that's sort of the gist of it. All right, let's add some hair. This clickbaity video has to it's been 40 minutes and now I'm adding hair. Yes. So this new option is an option for hair, so you need to have hair. You just add in this case I'm adding a plane, I'm adding a particle system, and I'm changing the type to hair. By default, the number of hairs is way too much. It's 1000 hairs, so I'm gonna lower this value just to make it a bit more clear to see. It's very hard to see there in the viewport, so I think I'm gonna either make the background of the 3D view. This is my theme, by the way. This is called Flatty Dark. and as I can see, it's getting hard to read sometimes. So there you go, white, so we can actually see it. So if we had Eevee, this would be so much easier. This is in master, by the way. This is Blender 279 on steroids. So the hair by default is it's just parent hairs. So what is a parent hair is an actual physical hair basically that comes out of the mesh. In this particle system, each particle can be parent of many children. So the children particles, by default there are none, so each parent particle doesn't have any children particles. And the most common way of using particles usually is to go with interpolated, which we will basically add for every parent. It will have a number of display particles, which are the ones you see in the viewport, and a number of render particles, which are the ones when you press F12, the ones that show up. So if you set to 0, we only have 10 particles because I had, 15. So if I have 1, then for each one I have another one. So I have like 30, and then 2 and more. And that way, by default, the interpolated way of seeing particles will try to distribute the particles all over the mesh. And that's like the common way of doing things. But the way that sometimes depends on what you're doing, of course, but sometimes it's not often used. It's a simple way. I didn't find myself using it that much because I didn't have like a lot of options. You can make it a bit weird, but still, even when you break the particle, all the children particles go around and it doesn't look real. It looks a bit weird. So this is the system that Andy made for the braids in Spring, the ones that we saw here. And one of the features he asked Sergey, our lovely Russian in the studio, is to add an option to twist, to make a little spring. Hey, it's a spring on Spring, to twist the particles. So basically it's just a slider that it will twist the particle on its own, around the children particles around the parent. It's a bit more clear if I add some steps. In this case, I don't have enough geometry, enough resolution in my particles, so I'm gonna go up a few levels with the step 2, 3. Okay, that's maybe a bit too much, but it just to show the effect. Make them a bit shorter. There you see. I make it a bit shorter so that way you can see the effect a bit more clear. So if you see it from the top, it's like a tornado. It's like a hair-nado. It goes around the particle itself. Of course, this makes the effect a bit too strong. Let's go to children. So maybe you don't want it to be all over from the bottom to the top of the particle. So you can use a curve for that. So you can say, okay, this is all the way to the top. I hope we can work on this UI because it's terrible. Now you can have 3, actually 2 curves, and it looks a bit weird. So in this case, I can make it so at the beginning of the particle there's no twist. We can see that the bottom of the parent particle the children doesn't twist in that area. Or I can do the other way around and start twisted and end up straight. So this way is actually pretty handy because that way you can make, let's see, Spring. You can make, there is another render here. These renders are done by Andy, by the way. Here, you got this beautiful. There, here you can see that the hair goes in one direction and then goes in another direction. Hi, okay. Let's say hi to the chat because this is live, so it has to be. Why not beard? Oh, the car Spring. I don't know why no beard. You know, she's not hipster enough, maybe. About to have a rocket as an official object in Blender 2.8. Whoa. That would be a nice Easter egg. Yeah, maybe. What are the rules to add new developers? What are the rules to add new default objects? Maybe can be an add-on. Let's see. About 3 rockets. Wow, thank you, Icicon. Where can I get Flatty Dark? I haven't released it yet. I'm working on it. As you can see, it has some things to be like, some of the color of the background wasn't great, so I'm still testing it, and I will keep working on it. Hey Miller, greetings to New York. All right, so next, this is all very nice. You can twist it on one direction, or you can twist it in the other direction, but a very hidden feature. By the way, this is not gonna be the only, it's not a tutorial per se, it's just showing the feature, but actually we're going to make a video on and a blog post on the, probably on the Cloud blog, because it's really, or maybe on the developers channel, but since it's a feature that came out of the Blender Cloud project, in this case Spring, maybe we're gonna make it over there. We're gonna explain how it works and all the cool stuff that you can do with it. So in this case, the twist is just a value that goes around the object. But what if you want to change the direction, like for some particles, but not for all of them? You have to make 2 particle system. That's kind of not the best way to go about it. So in the particle system, you can use textures, and the textures can affect different attributes of this particle, and one of the new attributes that you can change is a twist. So you basically can have an image, or in this case you can paint an image and use that image as a black and white to give direction to either of the twists. So let's see how it looks. I'm going to make a unwrap. I'm gonna make a new image. It's all very new, so I really think this is gonna crash at some point. Bear with me. Alrighty, so I have the Untitled. I'm not even saving the image. I'm a daredevil. Okay, paint. I'm gonna paint half of it white. Maybe I can save it. Nah, let's see without saving. Is it gonna... Alright, okay. So let's see. How is it even? How does it even? Let's add the picture. Maybe I should go to texture paint. And let's use the same texture actually. Let's make a new picture. Okay, I'm not viewing anything. This is what happens when you don't test things. Texture, there you go. Why don't get to see it? Because it's not added. Texture. Okay, if it doesn't work right now, I'll just, there you go. So I have black on one side and I have this UV, right? Yes. This is white on one side. So the particles should twist in one direction depending on where. Okay, I'm gonna lower this so I can see. And yes, actually it works. The particles on this side, they're twisting in one direction. And the particles on the other side are twisting in the other direction, if I'm not wrong. Basically, what you're using here is a black and white image where gray, like completely gray, it means that it will twist on, it won't twist, basically, completely gray. And then let's see if we can fill the image here. There is fill. Yes, with gray. Basically, when you are painting gray, it should be, there you go. There's no twist, basically. Okay, here there is a bit of twist because I'm painting, but basically, when, there you go. Gray is no twist. If I paint white, and I refresh by just doing a thing, it goes in one direction, and then if I do black, I think I already made my point. Even without crashing Blender, that's amazing. It twisted to the other way. Okay, maybe not. Maybe I need to save the image. The concept is there. Go play with it. I'm almost reaching my time. Yes, in 1 hour I'm starting the same, but in Spanish. So that's why my my voice is almost breaking. We talk about physics. Are they being improved right now? Nope. No save. Living on the white side. Yes, that was actually living on the white side. And there are a few retracted messages. No, please come talk. Everybody's welcome. I think that's enough with the twist. With the twist feature. Pretty happy actually that there is new stuff happening in the hair department, because hair is such a basic thing. Like every creature has hair. Like even there are a few renders where hair is being added to little renders, little parts, little objects of the character spring. And of course, everything has hair. Everything is made of little particles, hairy particles. So in this case, for example, at the bottom of the clothing, these renders are this is one of my favorite. It looks so nice. This is a render by Julian Kaspar. He's an artist at the Blender Animation Studio, and he's been doing this, and it looks so good. Of course, you're not gonna simulate that. There's no need for that, but it's cool to have it. And thanks to the Agent 327, and this should work a bit better with the motion blur. Still not perfect, but much better than what it was back in the days. How are you animating the hair? There is actually a video where this is explained. Not explained, but it's shown. Basically, it's using it's a bit early, but it's an experiment to see how would it work. It's using a bones, basically, like they were rigid bodies. So you use a soft body like a cloth on a mesh, and then you constrain the bones to the movement of the mesh. So you basically are like driving in a way. Not driving, I shouldn't use that word, but yes, sort of something like that. You make the bones behave like if they were soft bodies, and then you bake that animation into the bones themselves. So you just use the regular bake animation, and then you keep that animation around. You can save it in the Blend file. It can be recalculated when the animation updates. It can be sent to the render farm. So it's actually a very nice system that Andy came up with at the institute. So I bet he will do, like, we were already happy when he found out about this system, because it's a quick and easy way to get bone-based hair seams. Here's a proof of concept for simulating Spring's hair using our existing bone-based deformation setup. So this is what he came up with. You can read more in on the cloud, but actually it's pretty effective. And the best part is that you can actually bake this and keep it in the blend file itself. You can send it to the render farm. It's very safe. so to speak, because one of the problems when you're doing these kind of animations and using physics is the caches. So whatever you do locally, yeah, it's very nice, but then you have to send the cache to the render farm, for example, and that it's a lot more trouble. So this saves a lot of work. How does it work under interpolated children? Well, no, there is no option basically. The option for the hair here, children, simple. The twist option, eek. The twist option only shows up when you are in simple. Doesn't show up in interpolated. And if you want to try this for yourself under supervision of an adult, because it's still in production, don't use your production files on it. Actually, even though we are actually using production files with it, it should be fairly stable. It's still 279. It's master. It's not 2.8, so it should be fairly stable. Look at this awesome, beautiful new builder that Sergey updated. Now you can actually see it a bit easier because it's split by operating system first. So if you're only Windows user, then you see all of them in the same place. You can find 2.8, official, and then with the new compiler option. But yeah, it's much better, and also shows the size, which it didn't before, I think. So I think it's about time to close this up. If there is any questions, I will be reading them now, but I think otherwise we can start the farewell. Will there be improvements to the texture painting in general in 2.8? Texture painting, well, there will be improvements, I guess, in the workflow because of the workspaces. So I think that will help a lot, but not development itself that I can think of. Spring renders with Eevee. No, Spring will render with cycles. It's meant to be for cycles. It's supposed to push. Of course, once the team is using 2.8, then if you set it up for cycles, then it will look pretty close in Eevee anyway. So for visualizations, for OpenGL renders and everything, we should be fairly straightforward to get it to look like something. Please say something about Blender Sequence Editor. Where are the developers for the Sequence Editor? That's all I'm gonna say. Please, if you develop, check the Blender Sequence Editor. There are tons of add-ons for it. There is a lot of people. There's a community behind it that actually wants to make it better, to improve it. So maybe have some ideas from there and work on it, please, pretty please. So I think I'm gonna wrap up for now. This is, as I remember this, as I mentioned before, and I remember to say now, this is Blender.Today. This is coming, actually it's a weekly show that comes up from the website itself that is called Blender.Today. Yeah, that's the URL. This is where you can go and post your own news and everything, but also there is a chat recently that we launched. This is a it's independent website, doesn't have anything to do with Blender itself. It's like Blender Artist, Blender Nation, it's all independent. And there is also a chat where you can go and hang out with people. It's called Blender.Chat. And yes, you can go and hang out there. There's also a support channel where if you have questions, you can go and ask them. For example, like here, I accidentally click X near the button or the compositing mode. Is there any way to make it back? Thank you. So these kind of things are actually pretty nice. So I will close this for now. I will yes, good luck with the Spanish cast. I'm gonna do this same thing in Spanish in 1 hour. on my own channels, just not to spoil people here. Let's keep it in English for now. That will be in 1 hour from now. So if you want to keep chatting, hang out, go to Blender.Chat or go and post something on Blender.Today if you have any news to share. That's it for now. I think I can wrap it up. Thank you everyone for hanging out with me here. It's pretty fun always to see to share all the news. If you haven't checked it already, probably you already know the whole community is being spammed at the moment with the code quest, but it's a really important thing for Blender. So I'm pretty happy that we reached 1,000 so far. This will only make it better if we reach to the moon. That's it. I will see you again next week. And yes, I will do the same that I do every week. I will go out. I will leave this place with the help of the amazing Gile from Street Fighter. That is my cue. Sorry if you were having headphones. I will see you all in... Let me see if I can find the button to close it. I will see you all in 1 week. Same time, same place, and more Blender features for everybody. I will see you. Ciao. I see you on Blender Chat if you're hanging out there or if you're in Blender today. So we can keep chatting over there. Ciao for now, and yeah, see you. Thanks for hanging out.